Max Verstappen did it. He is the 2024 Formula 1 Drivers' Champion. Where he dominated like no other in 2023, the 2024 season turned out to be a much bigger challenge. He saw, he came, and he conquered. There were, however, 3 races he should not have won in 2024. Only his skill, his speed, and the team he's with made him accomplish this championship in the 3rd fastest car. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. The first race on this list was quite some time ago in this long season. It was after McLaren's major upgrade in Miami, and the early signs of trouble for Red Bull and the momentum for Lando Norris were seen. I'm talking about Emilia-Romagna, aka the Imola GP. The race was held on the 19th of May in dry conditions. The first remarkable thing that happened, which is characteristic of Max Verstappen, was during qualifying. Max Verstappen gets a lot of negativity from the media and opposing fans, but on track he has many friends. He speaks many languages and he's always friendly and chatty outside of the car. He gets on with every single driver, despite the hard racing he does sometimes. One of his friends on the grid is Nico Hulkenberg. Nico's mom is Dutch, so they goof around in Dutch all the time. In this particular case, they decided to give each other a tow on this blistering fast short track, and it gained Verstappen a much needed pole position. Verstappen doesn't have a teammate, so it's very important other drivers fill in this role. So the race started with Max Verstappen on pole and Norris beside him in P2. Verstappen had a good start and he didn't lose his place in turn 1. Still, by lap 8, Lando was still pretty close, and this is where things were much different from last season. In 2023, he would have been 20 seconds up the road by then. Verstappen pitted in lap 25 and was firmly warned by his race engineer GP to be careful with track limits, as he had a few strikes already. Norris proceeded to get closer and closer each lap, and it looked like he was going to catch Max before the 63 laps were done. By lap 57, Norris had closed the gap to Verstappen to 1.8 seconds, and with his fresher tyres, things looked hairy for the Dutchman. Norris was told to push more in turn 9, and he reacted stressed and pretty unfriendly to his engineer.
Happy to push turn 9 a little bit more. I'm pushing as much as I can.
For some reason, Norris yapping at his engineer bugs me more than Verstappen yapping at GP. He was feeling the pressure of having to push, while Verstappen was pushing without any signs of stress at all. Norris had a few wobbles in lap 58 and kept edging closer. The pressure was really on in the last lap when the gap was as small as 0.7 of a second. The Imola Grand Prix is a great track, but overtaking opportunities are scarce. So Max Verstappen managed to get this win while not being in the fastest car on track. It was his wit that got him the pole, and his nerves of steel that saw him pull off this magnificent win. Definitely a race he should not have won, but there are more. The second race Max Verstappen could easily have lost was the track where he had his very first win. We all have fond memories of the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, don't we? Well, the 2024 edition was pretty special too. Another dry race in great racing conditions. Now, 8 years later, Verstappen started in P2 with Lando Norris in P1. Verstappen had a great start and was closing in on Norris, who also had a decent start. Norris tried to intimidate Max by pushing him on towards the grass. Max isn't intimidated so quickly, so he kept the pedal on the metal and got himself ahead of Lando. The biggest surprise at the start was from Mr. V-Pose himself. George Russell lifted along on the slipstream of the two cars in front and swooped past him before the corner, making his way around the outside to take the lead. Nicely done, George. Not much later, GP urged Verstappen to get the overtake done on George, as it would only become harder later on.
Might be our best opportunity now, Max. Think wisely.
The now 4-time world champion didn't waste any time and clinically passed the Englishman to gain the lead. Norris had another conversation on the radio about covering Russell after he had passed him. He said he wanted to focus on Max rather than behind him, which is the right mentality. It took Lando way longer to get the move done on George Russell and lost valuable time. This is also where Max Verstappen makes the difference. He doesn't hesitate and he's very precise. Norris took a bunch of laps and eventually did it, losing time in the process. The second run of pit stops was timed perfectly for Verstappen with a few cars in front of him. After they had pitted, he was in the lead again. The Mclaren strategy team opted to leave Norris out a few laps longer in an attempt to give him better tyres towards the end. This meant that Lando had to pass 2 Ferraris and 2 Mercedeses. That's a lot of work and not an easy job. I feel this is where Norris lost the race. And the sharp strategy and the execution from Max is what won him the race. Around lap 52, Norris had 5.5 seconds to cover. He managed to get it down to 2 seconds, but that wasn't enough. Another great win for Verstappen and Red Bull, and a bit of a bottle job from McLaren. Another win in a slower car. Definitely a race he should not have won by any means. The next race is not very hard to guess. And it's not that long ago. It's, of course, the Brazilian GP I'm talking about. That masterclass won't easily be forgotten. What a drive. Let's go through it anyway, just to relive that beautiful race. Max Verstappen had to start on P17 due to a new engine and an unfortunate red flag during qualifying. Enough has been said about that, and the people involved are all sacked, I believe. Norris started on pole, and it was a great opportunity for him to make huge gains in the Drivers' Championship. However, it would turn on his head very quickly. In such an epic way, people will talk about this for decades. Verstappen had an amazing start and passed a few drivers straight away. Then he drove a line which nobody dared and passed another group of drivers. He was P10 before we knew it. He started passing drivers lap after lap until the rain came down in huge force. By then, Russell, who had passed Norris at the start, and Lando had pitted during a VSC, which was just ending. Max Verstappen and Esteban Ocon waited it out in the heavy rain, hoping and pleading for a red flag. A safety car came to guide them safely through the worst weather. And then, Colapinto crashed. In a previous video, I said it was Williams' fault for not pitting him, but I learned that they had pitted him and he was speeding up to catch up with the safety car. So, I was wrong. Sorry, James. Ocon and Verstappen stayed in the same position after the restart until there was another safety car due to Carlos Sainz crashing. After that restart, Verstappen made his signature move again in turn 1 and was in the lead. He set 9 more fastest laps and finished 20 seconds ahead of Ocon in P2. Now Norris had been sliding off track a few times during the race and was led by his teammate Piastri at one point. He finished 6th and the championship was basically over. Now we know it was over as Max Verstappen finished ahead of Lando Norris in the Las Vegas Grand Prix and sealed his championship. If there was ever a race that, seeing the circumstances, Max Verstappen should not have won, it was the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. He was rattled by what happened that morning during qualifying, and it woke up the lion inside of him. I could make a whole other video about the Houdini tricks he had to do to keep his lead for so long in a car which was slower than the Ferrari and the McLaren. Being in the 3rd fastest car didn't stop him from winning his 4th title, and I think that's a mighty statement. The whole paddock was congratulating him, even the people who hated him sometimes or said nasty things about him. The best interaction after the Las Vegas race was when McLaren CEO Zak Brown came over to congratulate him while Sky Sports F1 was filming, great photo opportunity, and Max said, "You said I could only win in the fastest car, but things are different now." Zak Brown took it like a man and laughed with the funny Dutchman. It's something I like a lot about Verstappen. He gives as good as he gets. And the best way to silence critics is do what Maximilian Verstappen did in 2024. Win races he shouldn't have won and maximize the other races while the others had faster packages. For some reason, it gives me hope for the next season, as the Red Bull design team knows where the flaws are now. They can work on it with a fresh budget and extra wind tunnel time. Do you think he'll win next season? Leave a comment. I don't know where Max Verstappen's journey is taking us next season. I just know I'll be there. Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.